For latest astrology videos, subscribe AstroEdify channel and press this bell icon to get notified when a new video goes live. Hello everybody, welcome to AstroEdify. Today we are going to discuss that what happens when Saturn is in the sign of Gemini in anybody's chart. So let's start this video. If you want to book a consultation for yourself, you can go on this website. The link is given in the description. So we are going to talk about Saturn in Gemini today and what happens when Saturn is in this sign. So first of all, let's talk about what are the things that Saturn represents and controls in Jyotish. So if we talk about Saturn, see, Saturn in one word, it shows crude practicality. So Saturn is the main planet which controls the reality of the world. So it could be the material reality, it could be the ultimate true spiritual reality. It is controlled by Saturn, both of them. But in general, Saturn is the significator of crude practicality and reality. And Saturn is a planet of actions. It is known as Karma Karak planet. So Mars and Saturn, these are the two main planets which represent our actions. Mars is energy, Saturn is labor and hard work and discipline and organization. So Saturn hence controls discipline, organizations, patience, hard work, labor, delay. It is a slow planet, so that is why it shows struggles and patience and limitations and boundaries in our lives. And that is why people are afraid of Saturn sometimes. They do not like it because it shows you your limitations, but it does, and it gives you some struggles and delays and some failures in life. But whether Saturn is always going to give this or have an intention to do this, no, because Saturn is a planet. If it is going to if it is going to give you success, it will give you success definitely. And people are there who are highly successful because of Saturn. They had tremendous huge growth in their lives in Saturn time periods. So this does not mean that Saturn is always going to give failures in life. So this is one misconception in amongst the mind of the people, that Saturn is always a planet of hard work and delay, and it does not give results, and it always torments people. It is the planet of misery. See, Saturn controls all these things, but the main reason why Saturn gives this is to test the patience of the person, to test the seriousness of the person, to test the persistency of the person. How serious are you for your goal? How much patience you have, how much planning you have, how much persistent you are, that even though I'm going to create certain hurdles in your life, you are not going to back down. So Saturn is the planet which checks your fighting spirit. If your fighting spirit is there, you have persistency, you will definitely get good results from Saturn. So that is why Saturn is also a very, very beneficial planet. Do not always get into such kind of misconceptions that it is always a negative planet. No. So, and apart from this, Saturn is a planet of law implementation. Law, not the lawmaker, but the implementer of the law. Lawmaker is Jupiter. Then Saturn is a planet which controls our subordinates and servants, people who serve us or people who are serving the society. So service is seen through Saturn. Like you can serve the society by any means. Like you can serve the society by being a medical professional, you can serve the society by being a social worker, you can serve the society by giving some of your individual services which you have. You can serve the society by being a bureaucrat, you can serve the society by being a genuine politician, which is rare nowadays, but is still. So here Saturn becomes very important for all these areas which are related to service of the public or the people. And Saturn is a very, as I said, is a practical and realistic planet, and hence it is the controller of science and technology and engineering, manufacturing, industry, construction, oil and gas, iron, steel, research. It is a planet of transformation and changes. So Saturn is also very much responsible for the development which we see around in this day and age of Kali Yuga. So This is also another reason why Saturn is a very, very important planet in current day and age. Apart from this, if we talk about our body, Saturn is the controller of our bones, our GI system, gastrointestinal system, means the digestion system in general, and the teeth, the feet, they are controlled by Saturn, and it is the significator, the controller of any kind of diseases which are incurable or which take a long time to heal or to get cured of. So these are the things which Saturn represents. Okay, now let's talk about Gemini. Now what is Gemini? Gemini is the sign, natural sign of the third house. Mercury is the controller of Gemini, the lord of Gemini, and it is a air sign. So Gemini is what? It is a sign of ideas, communication. Communication is the key word here. So communication means anything through which communication is possible. So first of all, languages. So languages is seen through Gemini. Then sound, you communicate with the words, but also when you speak, sound is necessary. So sound. Then speaking ability, how speaking ability is there. Then written form of communication is also there. So writing is seen through Gemini. Then means of communication, any kind of means of communication are seen through Gemini. So communication means through all sorts of mediums through which people can connect with each other even though they are far apart. So like telecom sector, telecommunication or radar or means of transport. So you are connected, you are connected with the means of transport. If you have to go from one place to another, so you are going to take some means of transport, land, air or water, it doesn't matter, but any means of transport is going to be taken by the person in order to reach from one place to another. Why you are going from one place to another? Because of certain things, but main area is to connect with somebody, to communicate with somebody, to do something. So that is why communication and all sorts of means of communication, they also become very important when it comes to Gemini. It is controlled by it. After this, it is a sign of logic, reasoning, numbers, business, trade, sales, commerce, marketing, banking, accounting, finance. So this is media, IT, telecom, social media. This is all Gemini. Then it controls our social life also, specifically your friends, your relatives are seen through Gemini. Then apart from this, if we talk about our body, with respect to the body, it controls the ear, nose and throat, the respiratory system, the nervous system, mainly the peripheral nervous system, but in general it controls the nervous system. So this is what Gemini is. Now let's talk about what happens when Saturn gets into the sign of Gemini. So first thing here is that this is a friendly sign for Saturn. Saturn and Mercury are very good friends to each other, and Saturn feels very much comfortable in this sign. Now logically also it is very it can be easily what you can say explained or understood that Saturn is what? Saturn is discipline, organization, planning, strategy, long-term vision, practicality, reality. This is what Saturn is. And what is Mercury? Logic, reasoning, calculation, analysis, and specifically Gemini sign being the controller of Gemini, and Gemini specifically controls business, trade, commerce, banking, accounting, sales, finance and all these things. So Saturn here, if you see, the qualities of Saturn are going to enhance in the sign of Gemini. So here all the things which are controlled by Gemini, they get the support of Saturn. So it is and without the qualities of Saturn, can you imagine that any business, the commerce, the economy, the communication throughout the world, can it function without organization, without planning, without science, without technology, without law, without practical approach, without realistic approach? No, it cannot function. So the qualities of Saturn and qualities of Gemini are mutually cooperating with each other. They fulfill each other, and that is why in this sign Saturn feels very comfortable. So any person who has Saturn in this sign, and if Mercury is well placed, This is going to give very good results in life. Now, what kind of results can we expect here? That we are going to see now. So first of all, if Mercury and Moon are well placed in the chart, okay, if they are well placed in the chart, because Saturn is in the sign of Mercury, you have to see Mercury now, and Moon is your mind. Moon is the most important planet. I have repeated in my several videos previously. So if they are well placed, then Saturn makes person quite mature, serious, gives practical approach. It makes person realistic, logical, factual, scientific, analytical, sometimes pedantic, because Saturn is what? Repetition, and Mercury is what? Communication. So person becomes somewhat pedantic and repetitive also, but it also makes person introvert and makes him or her isolated thinker, because Saturn does not like communication very much. Here it does not mean that communication is hindered. It can be, but we will talk about it later on when it can. But the main thing here is that I said Mercury and Moon, if they are well placed, then it won't be hindered. The communication won't be hindered. So here person, it makes person isolated thinker, because Saturn is a reserved planet. It gives you introversion, it gives you isolation, and it gives you detachment in life. So here, and Mercury is a planet of thinking, so Gemini is the sign of ideas. So person is an isolated thinker, and Saturn is what? Criticism and sarcasm. So here it also makes person somewhat critical and sarcastic in nature as well. Apart from this, Saturn in this sign can make person less social. However, you have to check the placement of Moon and the Lagna Lord, because Saturn is not your personality. Okay, so it could be that the areas which are governed by Saturn, maybe in those areas, in those aspect, person is less social. For example, if Saturn is controlling the 5th house, then it could show that 5th house is the natural sign of romantic relationships. So here their person can faces some kind of what you can say hesitation or delay and problem in approaching and socializing romantically with other people. So that could be also a thing, but here you have to check through the other placements. What I am telling you here is that it makes person less social, gives reserved communication, and person will communicate to the extent with to a certain extent to fulfill their needs. That's all. And apart from that, it also gives what you can say mental and mental and intellectual compatibility is the main criteria for forming relationships here. Is any kind of relationships, whether it is through making friends or involving in any opposite gender relationships, it doesn't matter. It is the common criteria seen. Apart from this, style of communication becomes more factual, logical, lucid, and means person will say deep things in short versions. It means communication will be as concise as possible. So they speak and communicate on subjects and things and areas which are deep, but they take less time. So more meaning and less words. And of course, with the element of sarcasm and criticism will always be there. Mercury must be well placed here, otherwise the communication will be hindered. Okay, because Mercury is the main planet of communication and Saturn is a planet of delay. If Mercury is not supporting Saturn here, then communication will be hindered. If it is well placed, then it won't be hindered. These will be the results what I have told you so far. Apart from that, it gives dormant attitude towards hard work, and it gives procrastination in the person, because Saturn is a slow planet. So Saturn here feels what you can say comfortable, relaxed. However, it is a planet of organization also, but for that it needs support of Mars. So if Mars is supporting it, then these things cannot be seen. But in general, since it is in the sign of Mercury, which is a easygoing sign, so Saturn can give dormant attitude towards hard work and induce procrastination in the behavior due to slowness and laziness brought up by Saturn in the personality. Apart from that, if Moon, Mercury, Lagna Lord and Jupiter, they are well placed, or these four things, these four planets are going to determine that whether the person will have open, pragmatic, scientific, rational, philosophical, self-introspective, or perception less thinking and mindset, or it will be just opposite, that is narrow-mindedness, rigid, orthodox, judgmental attitude, projectionist behavior where you are blaming others for your own mistakes, and or critical, unnecessary critical, not genuine critical, people who are unnecessary critical because of jealousy or any kind of narrow vision, and depressive thinking can be seen here. So both the things are possible, but you have to check what? Moon, Mercury, Lagna, Lord and Jupiter placement. How are they? That is important. So their placement, if they are well placed, Saturn will bring all kind of positive traits which I told you, and also at the same time it has full capability to bring all the negative traits which I also mentioned. If Moon, Mercury, Lagna, Lord and Jupiter, that is the ascendant Lord and Jupiter, they are not well placed. Then Saturn is a planet of delay. So here the things which it is controlling in the chart, the lordship, you have to see the lordship of what houses it is controlling. So the areas which it is controlling, it can delay things in life related to those areas which it controls in the chart, and it can generate struggle, frustration and depression in those areas. But you have to check Moon and Mercury. It is not always the case, but since Saturn controls these things and it is a giver of these things, you have to see Moon and Mercury. Then at last, if we talk about some areas of work or career fields for which Saturn will be considered very favorable here, if it is responsible for the career in the chart, then it is good for getting into any scientific or engineering related fields, specifically IT, electronics and communication, control and instrumentation, electrical, sound engineering, telecom, networking, aerospace, any other technical job. These will be good. It is good for radiology, media, mass communication, writing, printing, publishing, advertising, sales, business, photography, trade, commerce, supply chain, logistics, mail, home delivery, courier, postal services, or transportation. As I said, any kind of means a person can have transportation business, or they are related to the field of transport, like people are drivers, bus drivers, train drivers, car drivers, pilots, they can be anything. So transportation sector in general, and all kind of transportation, whether it is land, air or water based, it doesn't matter, it is favorable here. Then it is good for banking, accounting, auditing, tax, law, and also good for designing if the yogas are there. And designing could be in any field, like it is fashion, graphics, interior, product, industrial, it could be any, depending on the combinations. And it is also favorable for music and entertainment. So here Saturn is very favorable for these areas which I mentioned. Now let's talk about the results which we can see if Mercury, Moon, ascendant Lord and Saturn are not well placed, they are getting afflicted or weak in the chart. Now there are some results, obviously they are going to be negative in nature, which we are going to discuss now. And before moving on to all these results, I just want to give you a note here, that take these what you can say points as a source of information, nothing more than that. Don't jump to conclusions, because I am just telling what all kind of wide possibilities, wide permutations and combinations. What can we expect when Saturn is in the sign of Gemini? We don't know that where Saturn, in which house it is in the chart, with which planets it is associated, what kind of yogas it is making, in which nakshatra it is, how it is placed in other divisional charts. We don't know that, how Mercury is placed. So I am just telling you, if Saturn is in the sign of Gemini, what kind of results, good and bad, we can expect. So take it as a source of information, don't jump to conclusions, that is all. Now let's talk about the negative part, that if Saturn is in the sign of Gemini, and if Mercury, Moon, Lagna Lord and Saturn are not well placed, they are getting afflicted, they are weak, forming negative yogas, then what kind of results we can expect? So here it can make person quite narrow minded, orthodox, very critical, unnecessary critical, where criticism is just coming because of jealousy in the person, and it can make person very greedy. Pessimist behavior can be seen, projectionist behavior where you are blaming others for your own mistakes. It can make person manipulative, deceitful, selfish, cunning. Of course they are very bad traits, but we cannot deny that such people don't exist. They exist among us, they exist in the society. We see these people, we know these people, but we cannot deny that they do not exist. So if such a person is existing with these kind of qualities, some kind of planetary influence is responsible for it, and I am just talking about that. So we have to see that what kind of results we can see with respect to Saturn if it is behaving in a negative manner in this sign. So these are some results. Now, since it is a sign of communication, Gemini, so it can give any kind of speech impairment to the person, any kind of defect. Like children are there who face any kind of delay in speech, or they face any speaking problems, any kind of problems, or any person who has such kind of defect in speaking can be seen with this placement. And it can also make person a liar, specifically if Mercury and Rahu are influencing each other, then it can be seen. So you have to see the second house. So it can make person very manipulative and very and tendency to lie every time. Okay, then it can also bring depression, self-doubt, nervousness in communication, and negative thoughts. And it can also give problems to siblings or problems with siblings. So problems to siblings or with siblings can be seen. With respect to education also, it can create hurdles, because Mercury is your learning ability. So it can show some struggle and delay in education, learning capability, poor memory and logical ability can be seen with here. And if we talk about health, it can bring some mental and neurological disorders, respiratory problems, ENT problems, thymus problems in thymus gland, arms and shoulders. It can bring infertility in the person, and as I said, any kind of language and learning disorders can be seen specifically in children. So these are the negative results which Saturn can bring here in the life of the person if it is in this sign. But for that you have to check the entire horoscope. Do not jump to conclusions, again I am saying. So that is all what I have what you can say studied about Saturn in Gemini, and I shared my view. I hope that you would have understood by now that what kind of results we can expect, good and bad both, if Saturn is in the sign of Gemini. So that's all from my side upon this topic. If you are new to my channel, subscribe below. For more, check on my website and Facebook page. Otherwise, we will meet in the next video. Till then, goodbye and thank you.